seeing all three of my boys in different hospital beds. It was like the whole thing was just slow motion. I went in and saw Hunter, and he wouldn't wake up. They said that they had to run him into surgery because his brain was swelling. Seeing your child in that kind of vulnerable state, I would have given anything to trade places.
When did you think Hunter was going to die? Like, when did that start to...
What was really difficult about that, every once in a while he would open his eyes and his eyes would move around, or he'd squeeze my hand. Kind of gave me that, almost like a hope that, there's something going on there. Come to find out later, that was a reflexive physical response. And that's the scientific term. Honestly, I think there's more to it. I think he was trying to come back, but his body was too broken. He was being kept alive by machines.
Did you have to make the decision to pull him off life support? Yeah. What was that like?
To make the conscious decision to pull that plug, I'll never forgive myself for that, ever. I'll never forgive myself for that. Oh. I know it was absolutely the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But how can you ever forgive yourself for that? To pull that plug as a parent.
Welcome back to the 1090 podcast. I'm here with Phil Lewis, who's a police officer, and you're retired, and now you're a detective.
Yeah, I wasn't quite done after the first 20, so took a year off. And
yeah, I heard you were retired, so I was picturing like an old guy for some reason. That was and then when you walked in, I'm like, oh, like, this dude could beat me up. Like, I gotta...
It's not the years, it's the miles, though.
Hey, there you go.
High miles rental at this point.
So we're going to have a brutal episode today. Before you get to your son's obituary, can I just ask you some questions?
Sure.
That I've always wanted to ask a cop/detective. If I'm driving, what's like the sweet spot? Like, how many miles over the speed limit can I go before you're probably like, all right, you're crossing the line? Can I give you my number before you answer?
Sure.
I feel comfortable with 7 over. Like, if I'm going 7 over, I'm talking on the like freeway interstate.
Okay.
Like all traveling right. Like, I guess that's more highway patrol. But I just gotta ask, like, what's this magic number to you guys?
It's different for everybody.
Like every cop's a bit, or maybe it's the day they're having. Like if they're in a bad mood, like it's only 4 over.
It could be,
or you're done.
It's really different for everybody. I think it depends on experience. Could be the kind of day they're having, but I mean, generally speaking, you got to be speeding pretty good to get pulled over. But I mean, that being said, I've gotten pulled over for 8 over.
You have
UHP. Oh yeah.
What happens when a cop gets pulled over? Do you just like, I'm a fellow officer and they let you go? How does that work?
I don't do that.
You just accept
I let it be. If I'm going to get a ticket, I'm going to get a ticket. It's just not worth, because I mean, they can call your admin, call your supervisor. It's just not worth it. If I'm doing something wrong, I'm just as liable as anybody else.
That's a good answer. You're right for the job. That was it.
That's right. I've done it for a long time, and
yeah. Okay? How about this? What are some of your favorite police movies, or maybe detective movies? Like, what are some of your?
All right.
I'll go first. I'll let you think a little bit. I think the best detective movie I've seen. I don't know if that's the right word to use it, but the movie 7.
Oh, I like 7.
It's so good.
Yeah, that was a great.
I like Training Day with Denzel.
Good one.
I think that's a classic police officer movie. And then I love, oh man, I just totally blanked on the name. I think it's a Scorsese movie. Everyone freaking dies at the end. They're like at Boston police officers. The Departed.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
I think those are my top 3. So I got 7, Training Day, The Departed. I'm probably leaving a lot out, but
As far as serious movies go, those are great ones.
Yeah.
I love The Departed, um, but my all time favorite. So I kind of I try to go more towards like comedies and stuff. And if you ask like what movie was on loop at the academies, all right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to date myself a little bit here. I went through
This
the
is
academy
great.
the first time in 2002 with Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office, and that was
Okay.
through the Corrections Academy. So I worked in the jail from 2002 to 2006, and then so that was just like an in-house academy. You know, we didn't stay there. We went home every day,
Yeah.
and then just came back, for school and whatnot. But in '06, I went through post for LEO, which is Law Enforcement Officer Academy, actually at Utah Post. At that time, it was in Murray. And so they had this big old, like, big screen, like old school, like tube, like the big screens,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we had Super Troopers on loop up
It's
there, right?
yeah.
So I've seen that movie more times than I can even remember.
Super Troopers is. I love this scene. What's that? Oh, they're saying the word meow.
Oh yeah,
Like I don't know.
always wanted to do
Yeah.
that. I think that'd be hilarious.
I think if you try to do it though, the person you're pulling over would know. Like, hey, this is from the movie Super Troopers. You're saying meow.
Yeah, I mean, if they recognize it, that'd be great. I mean, if they don't recognize it, I mean, they kind of deserve the ticket, right?
Yeah.
If they're,
Wow. Well said.
I mean, you
I
gotta
agree.
branch out a little bit.
That should be like an extra cost on the ticket. Like,
Yeah.
hey, you didn't get the movie
It
reference.
should be enhanced if you've never seen
Yeah,
Super Troopers.
I'd
Get
sign
out
off.
more, get cultured, right?
Yeah, I'd sign off on that.
But probably one of my favorite police movies is The Other Guys,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I love Will Ferrell. He was so funny in that show, and
I love how
Mark
his,
Wahlberg was
his
awesome.
wife's just a smoke show.
Yeah.
And then Mark Wahlberg's like,
she's
no, like,
average at best.
no, seriously, who is that? Like,
Yeah, it was such a we. I bet I quote that movie at least 3-4 times a week.
yeah, the desk pop prank is great.
Oh yeah,
When's the last time we did desk pop? 92 or like whatever
yeah.
he
You
said.
disrespect our flag if you don't shoot your gun in the office.
Yeah, that guy is good. What made you want to get into that line of work?
Originally, I think I was just kind of looking for steady work. So I went to college for like business and stuff like that. I went to my first accounting class, and I'm like,
This is
first off, I don't feel like I'm smart enough to do this. Second, it's just boring to me.
falling asleep over here.
Sitting in an office, all day. I couldn't do it. And saw that the sheriff's office was hiring, and really the rest is history. I realized after about 4.5 years in the jail, I did about 1.5 years in housing. So you're actually in there with the inmates, doing their day-to-day stuff. But it's 64 inmates to one
Wow.
officer. So a bad day can, happen like that, right?
Yeah.
And then I worked in booking for the last 3. And booking's like where they first bring them in. They're still in cuffs. You got to search them in and fingerprint, take pictures and all that kind of stuff. And had a lot of uses of force in there, like a lot.
What does that mean, really?
It just when someone decides they want to fight, and it's game on. And we had a lot of those. A lot of people would come in drunk and just want to swing. So
Are you just going fist to fist, or you got the baton out, or do you taser these guys, or what? Or is it just kind of it's just different every time, or what?
So at the time I was in there, taser, like it was around, but it wasn't, there wasn't a whole lot of that in the jail. So it was a lot of like the pepper spray, a lot of hands-on. We had something called pepper ball, which is basically a paintball gun, but they've got these little paintballs that have, it's called oleoresin capsicum, which is basically powdered peppers. They grind all these like high, what are they called? Scoville units, down into powder, and they'll hit the wall, and they'll just bust into this mist, and it chokes you,
mess you up.
chokes you out. It sucks. I've been in the room after you hit someone with one of those, having to go over there, and you're coughing and snotting everywhere.
So you're just laying in bed at night and then just waking up to that job, and you enjoyed that job. Like, that sounds tough, man.
It's there are days that that it has been tough, you
What
know.
do you get like connected with any of these people in prison? Like, I know it sounds weird, but like, I guess what I mean is like develop friendships with any of these inmates or from seeing them every day, or do they make sure you don't do that at all?
So
What's that like?
no, I totally
Because
get that
you're
question.
talking to the same kind of the
Yeah,
same. Because you said you had 64 prisoners that you're kind of in watch of,
right.
and like you see them. I mean, you do the job every day. I just wanted to know what that part of the job is like. And
Well, you develop a rapport with
okay,
these people. It's like a mutual respect, and everything in a jail is it's all about respect. Like you've got to have that respect for them just as much as they have to have that for you. If you go in there, Cartman, respect my authority kind of stuff, you're going to have a rough career.
yeah,
You've got to be able to roll with the punches with these people. Where you go in, you're polite, but they know the rules and they're going to push you on that. So you've got to find that line of professionalism, but also, being stern when you have to, and putting people's feet to the coals when they need to be. And they get that. They expect that. But they're always going to try to push you. They're always going to try to see what they can get away with. And I've told them, I said, I understand the game. My job is to make sure you're following the rules. Your job is to see what you can get away with. Some days you win, some days I win. And just being able to speak real with people like that
yeah.
gets you a long way. Because if you go in there and you're robotic and you're just very much you're going to do A, B, and C, and that's just the way it is because I'm the law. Uh, you're going to have a very short career, and B, you're going to hate the time you're there. And if you're in it for the long haul, man, you gotta find a way to make it work.
Yeah, I got one more prison question for you, and then we can get to what the podcast is usually about. But like, what percentage of these people in jail or prison would you say like the prison system's good for them? Like they're going to be better off, and they're going to be good.
Well, that's kind of a hard question because I think you deal with a lot of first timers who are like, oh, the hell with this. I'm never doing this again. Like, and it works and you don't see people come back. But I think it also kind of depends on what they're in there for. Because if it's someone who has an addiction to drugs, has an addiction to alcohol and stuff like that, they're going to be repeat offenders because it's an addiction. You don't just one day decide, I'm done shooting heroin. I'm done smoking meth. That's not how that works, And I'm sure just as well as I do, the success rate for rehabilitation, it's just not great because it takes a change within yourself to even get there. And some people just aren't ready to do that.
I've always wondered, like, when these drug addicts do go in, because when you get off these drugs, it's complete hell.
Yeah,
Like,
and
what's
I've
that?
watched it.
Yeah, like, and like, I'm surprised because you're not. What I've talked to police officers before, and they said the same thing about the addicts, and that surprised me because for some reason I thought like, well, if they're just in this prison cell where drugs aren't available, like maybe that will be good for them. And they're like, no, like they're the ones that struggle the most in there, and that just took me by surprise.
If you've ever seen anybody that is dope sick,
Oh,
that's gone a couple of days without heroin, it's hard to watch because it's like the worst. The way it was explained to me is it's the worst flu you've ever been through in your life. Like you've got the sweats and you're puking your guts out. It's miserable for them.
yeah.
And that's what's interesting though is people always say, oh, he's in jail. There's he doesn't have access to
Yeah, I'm like,
drugs.
wow, what a
Drugs get
perfect thing.
smuggled in
Yeah,
all the time. It's something that we have to deal with
man,
quite a bit.
they're smart in there, huh? They like find a way.
Yeah, and if they would just apply that to something good, I mean, God, they could do some great things in their life,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they're pretty smart people.
Okay, enough of those questions. Sorry, put you through the
No
ringer
problem.
there. It's just you got a cool career, man. I got questions.
I've loved it. I really have.
Okay, we're gonna take dark left turn here. Um, hey, thanks for coming on. By the way, it's always tougher to find guys to be vulnerable and open up. So you're like the masculine detective. You're the ultimate man. So this is great, dude.
I appreciate that. It's
Okay, I'm gonna read Hunter's obituary. June 13th, 2006 to December 31st, 2021. So very fresh. What is, man, this is the same. So I lost my family in 2021 as well. So we're kind of working off the same timeline here. Do you ever feel stuck like it's 2021?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
so weird. Like,
There are days I expect to. It's almost like it's frozen in time,
yeah.
where he's forever going to be 15 years old to me.
Oh man. Yes.
And sometimes I'll be like, oh God, what would it be like? He turns 19, this coming June.
I know that.
And you wonder what would they be doing? What would they look like?
Yeah.
Would I be, scared to death and driving with him, because I had to drive with my two sons, that were older than him. And it was a terrifying experience, to teach a kid to drive is scary as hell.
What, it's so interesting though that you said that, because like anything I teach Blue, like, man, I should be teaching Riggs this too and Frankie this too. And it's weird. When someone asks me how old I am, like my initial thought is I'm 30, and like, dude, no, you're not even, you're 34. You're not close to 30, but like. And I ran my nephew's 14 and my niece is 7. Like for a minute, my mind just stuck there. I think that's just part of the trauma. Maybe like your brain just can't leave that year when you had them. But
Probably the hardest question I get with that is, how many kids do you have? That's still a hard one for me, because I have 3 kids. One passed away. That doesn't make him not my kid anymore.
is that how you answer it? You say I have 3. And
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah, because it's never going to be where I have 2 kids.
Yeah.
That to me is dismissive, to his memory, and I'll never get to that point.
Yeah, I feel.
And everybody's different.
Yeah.
Like that. That's the hard thing.
No, I feel the exact same. And I would get like, because sometimes when people ask you, it's in the middle of Blues baseball game, or like it's just like a nice day and people are, and so I get like not wanting to tell them in the moment, because like you're just gonna kind of kill this moment for everyone, because it's so sad. But no, I've always done that too. Like I have 3 kids, 2 passed away, and now we got to deal with it. Or you have to deal with it. But like, yeah, I very much feel the same way. And then like it feels like it happened 30 years ago and 3 days ago, all at the same time. Like it's the time thing's weird. Okay. Hunter David Lewis was called home to his Heavenly Father December 31st, 2021 at the age of 15 after a car accident in Murray, Utah. He was born in Salt Lake City, Utah on June 13th, 2006 to Philip and Julianne Lewis. Just a few short weeks later, they relocated to St. George, Utah, where Philip started with the St. George City Police Department. Hunter was the happiest baby, always full of smiles and giggles. He was the youngest of 3 boys, and from an early age, he was known as the snuggler of the bunch. During infancy, his favorite spot for long naps was perched up on his daddy's chest. Later in life, he could always be found nestled up to his mama or wrapped in his favorite Sinky blanket. Not only did Hunter love to snuggle his people, but he was also constantly loving on his animals. There was a special place in his heart for his pups, Roscoe, Sasha, Archie, and Teddy, and his kitty, Lil. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Despite his gentle, loving nature, he was still always up for roughhousing with his brothers and cousins, whom he loved dearly. He was also quickly recognized by his mother as her little monkey, which was further solidified by the time she discovered a young Hunter pouting on the top shelf of his bedroom closet. In the 5th grade, Hunter took an interest in roping, Inspired by his favorite teacher, Mr. Prince, his bonus mom, Marin, who loves all things rodeo, was very encouraging of his newfound hobby, and she and Philip would often take him to his step-grandpa's horse property in Cedar City, where he could get the full ranch hand experience. Hunter had a blast with his Little League baseball team, who went on to win a championship. He loved to play catch, especially with his grandpa. Whether it was with a baseball or football, it didn't matter. And for a period of time, he ran on the Pineview Middle School track team. Hunter was a sophomore at Snow Canyon High School, where he was loving his early high school experience, developing new talents, and making dear friends. He was always living life to the fullest and enjoyed skateboarding, wrestling with his brothers and cousins, and long walks to the gas station to pick up soda and a treat. He liked to be one of the boys and was always excited to go shooting with his dad and brothers, not to mention he was a really talented little shooter and a great marksman. Hunter and his brothers shared an affinity for scary movies and believed any occasion called for a good horror flick. Like any teenage boy, he enjoyed his video games and was always sure to extensively share his exquisite Minecraft creations with his mom, but he especially loved to spend time with his family and friends, always making them laugh and smile. Hunter discovered his real passion in the form of a pencil and sketch pad and was an incredible little artist. He also began learning how to play the piano last year and was getting to be pretty darn good at it. He could always be heard plucking little tunes from both of his grandma's pianos during family gatherings. Hunter had also turned into quite the little businessman and was having a wonderful first job experience at Angelica's restaurant, where he developed a solid work ethic, formed a work family, and learned the value of $1. He was working hard to save money for his first car and was very excited to soon be starting driver's ed. Hunter was the sweetest, most tender-hearted boy and was adored by all whom he came in contact with. To know him was to love him, and that love was always reciprocated. He was as silly as they come and was always pulling faces for the camera or just for a good laugh. It was an honor and privilege to know and love Hunter, and we are so grateful that we were selected to share this earthly experience with him. He brought so much joy and light to this world and will continue to do so by the presence of his spirit and memories. Wow, what a beautiful... See, that's why I love reading the obituary, is you just learn so much about him. Like, man, awesome kid. And I love, you're right, the photo. It's such a great photo, man. So sorry, but should have a good episode today. Music is in, Ryan. Life's 10% what happens to you and 90% what you're going to do about it. Welcome back to the 1090 podcast, where life's 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. Love the obituary, man. Who wrote that? That was
clearly not me. It was actually his mom.
Yeah.
And, my first wife, she had a good way with words.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
I wasn't in that place to where I could even.
Yeah.
Like that's probably the third time I've heard that.
Yeah.
To date, because it's hard to hear.
It is hard to hear, and I mean, I was like you. I couldn't even. It's so hard to hear. I can't imagine writing it. Like I couldn't. Yeah. I couldn't. I was not in the headspace to do it.
Yeah, it's trauma's an interesting thing, because it's, you ever hear someone say like they have trauma brain, and I looked more into that, and it's the brain actually does its best to protect you through those situations where you just don't remember certain things. And that's your brain protecting you from something that it knows is going to be hard for you or painful for you. And I saw it firsthand. at my son's funeral. I couldn't tell you what anyone said. I just know that I sat there on the, on the front row and dazed out for about an hour and a half. And about an hour in, I'm like, who the hell is going over time talking? That was my only thought. And, but yeah, I couldn't tell you who came up and gave me a hug.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you who talked to me, what they said. I have no idea.
Yeah, I have people come up and like, I haven't seen you since the funeral. And I'm like, I don't even remember you being, I'm like, I'm sure they were, but yeah, it's just, did you speak at the funeral?
No, I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. And I wish I could have said some words for my son. If I had it to do over, I'd like to say that I would, but I don't even know what I would say. I mean, how do you put that into words when you lose a child? I mean, who's gone through something tougher than that? I don't think that there's a tougher trial on this earth. If there is, I don't want to experience it. Hardest thing I've ever dealt with.
The feeling of, I mean, how would you explain it?
It's just like that. It's the worst thing you could imagine.
I think, yeah, I don't know how to either. I think the closest I get is you just want to die.
Yeah.
And you kind of, yeah, you feel dead inside and you just feel like death is appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Like the honorable thing to do almost.
I think that any parent in a heartbeat would trade places. Like we all had that experience. But the hardest part was watching my two other sons. So the background.
How old were they when Hunter passed?
At that time, my middle boy was 17, and my oldest was 21. I believe, yeah, 21. So the background on that was we were up in Salt Lake. We'd gone up to go see my parents for Christmas, and we had just left the Spider-Man movie that was at that time. I can't even remember which one it was that had just come out. But we left the theater, and so right after the movie, we come out and the boys are talking, and my oldest son lived with his girlfriend at the time in Taylorsville, and they wanted to go and see the family dog who's lived with my oldest. That was Sasha, our husky, and she wasn't doing well. She was kind of circling the drain, just they didn't think she had much longer. And Hunter and Colin wanted to go with Austin and go see the dog, and then I was just going to go back to my parents' house, get my car, and drive over there and meet them over there. And so we were, kind of back and forth, like, why don't you guys just come with me back to mom and dad's house? I'll grab my car, then I'll drive all of us over there. But they want to spend time with their brother, because he lives in Salt Lake. We live in St. George. They didn't see him that often. So I kind of dismissed that and just said, all right, you guys just drive safe. We'll see you in a minute. And I always make it a point to hug my children and tell them I love them, because oddly enough, that was something I got in the habit of doing because I didn't know, when that day was coming when I wouldn't make it home because of what I do. And so I always tried to make it a habit of giving them a hug and telling them I love them. And I did that. And a little bit after we left the theater, I was still in the car with my mom and dad. And I got a call from a number that I didn't recognize, saying the boys had just been in a wreck. And they told me where it was, and that they were going to the Murray emergency room, which it happened on the freeway right by that hospital, right around that 5300 South exit. And so my parents just took me right over there, and I went in, and seeing all three of my boys in in different hospital beds. It, it, it was like the whole thing was just slow motion, and you get the whole like auditory exclusion type thing where you don't register anything that anyone's saying to you. And I just remember on my way there, just please God, let him be okay. Just let him be okay. And I went in and saw Hunter, and he wouldn't wake up. And they said that they had to run him into surgery because his brain was swelling and they needed to cut part of his skull away to make room for that. And I don't know. I don't remember much else that was said to me after that. But seeing your child in that kind of vulnerable state, I would have given anything to trade places with him. And just seeing my other two boys, I went in and checked with them. They were both awake, and they're, besides some bumps and bruises and, some soreness, from whiplash and things like that, essentially they were okay physically. But those were the last words that I said to my son was I love you. And I gave him a hug, and I guess I can be grateful for that aspect, if that's even the right word, because I got the chance to say I love you to my son and give him a hug. And I know that's not the case with some people, and they wish that they had that one last chance, and I got that, but it doesn't really make it any easier. You never imagine that that's going to be the last time you're going to see your kids, because kids should bury their parents, not the other way around. So fast forward to later that night. I'm talking with one of the neurosurgeons in the ER, and he was very, very knowledgeable, but I will say his bedside manner could probably use some work. He was very blunt with me and told me that things didn't look good. And I just remember wanting to hit him. And I think I actually lunged towards him to hit him just because I needed somewhere for that anger, that rage to go. And I'm glad my dad was there, because my dad just grabbed me and pulled me in. But I was just angry. I don't know how else to put it. I just wanted some outlet to make that pain go away.
I mean, I think it's 100% okay to be angry. I mean, yeah, I'm still angry. I don't know how you're still doing with the anger, but that's one of the emotions I try to deal with daily, is just how mad I am at the world and everything. And yeah, did you think, so when did you think Hunter was going to die? Like, when did that start to?
So what was really difficult about that is when he was in the hospital bed, and this is, he was in there for a couple of weeks. Every once in a while he would open his eyes, and his eyes would move around, or he'd squeeze my hand.
Oh, wow.
And kind of gave me that, almost like a hope that,
yeah,
there's something going on there. And come to find out later, that was that was a reflexive physical response. And that's the scientific term. Honestly, I think there's more to it. I think he was trying to come back, but his body was too broken. So the problem is when they got hit, and just let me go over that real quick. So they were on the freeway northbound on I-15, and there was an accident that was north of them, so were stopped in their lane, and a lady behind them was looking at her GPS and slammed into them at 75 miles an hour. And just a quick PSA on that. Stay off your fucking phones. Sorry if that's not appropriate for your podcast, but that's the only way I feel about that. Stay off your phones if you're on the road. There's nothing that is so important that you could be doing while you're driving that it's worthy of taking a life.
Yeah, stay off your fucking phone. Yeah.
So when she hit them, my son, they believe he hit the window. He was in the back on the driver's side, and his head hit the window, which they believe caused a stroke and caused massive, swelling and things like that. So getting a brain scan at that time wasn't showing the actual damage that was being done. That brain scan, couldn't be done for, I think, the first time for a few days after. And that's when they saw what they believed was, part of his brain had died. And then, as time went on, we saw more and more that his brain was he was being kept alive by machines, essentially. We just didn't know at the time. So every time he'd squeeze my hand or open his eyes, that was, like I said before, that was a reflexive movement. But, medically speaking, there was nothing going on behind that. That was just his body trying to repair itself.
Dude, you have so many things. Grief has just so many layers. Like, so Hunter's dead, which is just, that's enough to just ruin you. But then, like, the lady that hit him, like, or was it I don't know if it was
it was an older lady.
Older. Like, there's that element. What is that like? Like, forgiveness, or just fuck that? Or is it, or we don't even have to go this direction if you don't want to, but this has to be a daily, or maybe it's not, but like, yeah, can you expand on that a little bit?
I think it depends on the day. There are some days that I would love to face her. I would love to choke the life out of her. But there are some days where I'm like, life's too short to hang on to hate, because hate is such a destructive thing in life, where it'll tear you up if you let it. And that, that sounds good on paper or on a Hallmark card or something like that. But the reality of it is, some days I'm just fine with the hatred. Yeah. You need to feel it.
Well, the anger is so intense, and I mean, let's just connect the dots. Like, people made mistakes. It's okay to be angry at people.
Yeah.
But I love what you said. Like, I don't know. Like, anger, there's good parts of anger. Like, it will get you to do stuff. Like, anger is a big reason why I started a podcast. Like, fuck it, I'm talking about it. And if you don't want to listen, then don't listen. But, like, I need to talk about them and this, or else I don't know what to do with the pain. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there going down that rabbit hole, but I just, like, the anger, it doesn't help. It's not a good way to live your life, holding on to that anger. And my question to you is, like, my family, it was a sandstorm, it was a 20-car pileup. I've never been mad at anyone for hitting a car. I think it was just a weird, crazy, terrible accident for a lot of people. Like, 8 people died with my family's accident. It wasn't just my family. There's many people involved. And so I've never had to struggle with being mad at another person. I'm mostly just mad at myself. Like, just, why wasn't I in the car? Like, Like I'm always I'm always with him. I'm always with him. Why wasn't I with him that time? So I guess my question to you is: do you still have do you have anger towards yourself, like guilt,
Absolutely.
or okay? I didn't know if it was.
Absolutely. And I think that's normal because
Oh, for
as
sure.
parents, what is our number one job with our children?
What
To protect them.
you protect them? Yeah.
And I'm in the business of doing that, to protect people. And so I went through stages and okay, stages isn't the right word because I think that's bullshit. No one goes through
State.
the stages of grief because it is constantly
Yeah.
evolving. You can hit me at 4 o'clock on a Monday and I'm like, yeah, I feel like I've dealt with this. And by 4:05, I'm like, nope,
Yeah.
still pissed off, still sad. And I'll
Yeah.
go through a myriad of different emotions in a matter of minutes. And so the stages of grief, that's just so somebody could write a book and get paid for it. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
just doesn't
because the
exist.
stages kind of imply like you'll work through them and you kind of
Yeah,
graduate from these. Like, no, you'll
yeah.
be back into
There's
that
no.
stage next
Oh,
week or in an
100%.
hour. I-
100%.
Sometimes people are like, "Oh, you're so like whatever, like you're so strong," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, you should have seen me 45 minutes ago."
Yeah. Hit me up. Hit me up in 5 minutes.
Like,
We'll see how strong I am.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It doesn't. I'll go through all those different emotions. Yeah, just like you said, in a matter of minutes. You know, uh, I am happy to say that the one thing that I don't think about as much anymore is suicide, and that was a big step for me.
oh wow,
Uh, I actually had my buddy take all the guns out of my house because I knew
this is correlated to like the anger you had with yourself and the guilt you had with
the
yourself.
anger, the guilt, the sadness, all of it, all of it. There were days where in fact, there's months straight where every day, every morning, I'd ask myself, is today the day?
Did you ever, did you ever think like, sorry, I'll let you talk, but like I'm just relating so much to this. For me, it was more of like this hope. Like I couldn't kill myself because of blue. That's how I saw it. But I just had this weird fascination with death and hoping like maybe I'll get cancer, maybe I'll get in a car crash, maybe I'll just kind of hoping I die in a non-guilt way that I don't have to feel bad for dying. Like blue, it wasn't my fault. Like I got cancer. Like what do you want me to do? Or I get like
Mm-hmm.
I remember and just being fascinated with death and the curiosity of it. Like what does it feel like? What does happen
Yeah,
when I die? Just being
yeah.
like, what is my family doing? Like, am I really this close to being with them? Like, if I just pull this trigger, am I there? Like, those thoughts consumed me, but I don't think I was actually, I never asked to take my gun out of the house like you.
And what saved me was my children, who were still here, who were still alive. If Hunter would have been my only son, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah,
I would have killed myself the day I got home from the hospital,
me too.
without a shadow of a doubt. But I knew that I had to be strong for my sons who were here, and that kept me going every day. That and a very, very unhealthy drinking problem that I
Yeah.
had for 3, 4 months after I lived in a bottle. If I was awake, I was drunk.
Well, dude, this is me, man, because, okay, we wanted to kill ourselves. We can't because of our kids. So we have to stay here. So then we're stuck in like, I can't live, I can't die. So what did we do? We drank.
Kill the pain.
That's what I did. Well, because in my mind, I'm like, well, if we can't kill ourselves, we're not feeling this pain. So let's just numb it. And then it turned into this
Yeah.
drinking problem. I didn't view it as a problem. I viewed it as
Well,
my escape. But
and
it
and I
was a
didn't
problem.
either.
Yeah,
I
at the
viewed
time,
it
I'm
as,
like, this is awesome.
yeah, I don't have to feel anything. I don't have to,
Yeah.
know what time it is. Yeah,
I didn't know what
I'm
day
right
it
there with
was,
you.
what time
Yeah.
it was, and
Yeah.
the turning point. I remember I just woke. The other blessing and the curse I had was I had so much help. I had so much help from family and Courtney's, like so much help, which was great. Like all these people watching Blue. but it's also terrible because that just allowed me to just completely check out and
Mhm.
drink and not be there. And I remember waking up one afternoon, like not knowing where Blue was. Like I knew he was okay. Like I just didn't know who was watching him. Like is he with his grandma? And that was kind of like, okay, dude, like we have to be here for Blue. Like we can't just drink.
Yeah.
And I remember that kind of being a turning point.
Yeah. And you brought up a really good point. The people that surround you, they almost form this, like, this protective cocoon
Yeah.
around you. And I wouldn't have made it. So the day we got home from the hospital, um, it was yeah, it was New Year's Eve.
Oh man, we haven't
And
even talked about that
it
part either.
as soon as I got home, um, our inner circle of friends, you know, were all out front of the house, and they were waiting for me. And
Hmm.
people can say what they want about law enforcement, and like, fuck the police and all that kind of stuff, but I've never seen that kind of support where I had my friends to hold me up physically and emotionally in those days where I had one friend who called me every single day. He said, "You don't have to talk to me. You can tell me to go to hell or whatever, but I'm still going to call you every
Hmm.
day and make sure you know that we're thinking of you and we are here for you." And you can't, those friendships in your life, man. You can't. There's not a price you can put on them
Hmm.
because they're worth their weight in gold. They really are. My blood family, my blue family, like everybody was amazing in that. But it wasn't when everybody was around. It's the quiet times. It's the times when you're by yourself. It's that time at 2 o'clock in the morning where you just had a dream
Hmm.
about your son. That that's those are the dangerous times.
Yeah, I think for me, like when I'm weeping and wailing in my bathroom with the lights off, trying to be quiet, and like no one on planet Earth knows this is happening, like this is a terrible, lonely feeling. Like just not good, man.
Yeah.
I want to get back to you take the guns out of your house. I think just do a lot of episodes with suicide, family members losing loved ones to their loved ones take their own life. And I think getting guns out of the house is it's obviously scary, but it's an important step to do if you're at that point. Can you just talk about that a little bit? Because I think there's people listening to this that are contemplating taking their life. Like, I just want to get back. I kind of hijacked that conversation. I just want to get
No,
back
no.
back to it real quick and kind of pick your brain.
So my biggest thing, and this isn't to take away from the struggles that anyone has in their life, because everyone has their own struggles, and they're unique to that person. But how I felt in my situation was suicide would be the easy way out for me. That's how I felt,
Mm,
because I have to hold on to the hope that I'm going to be able to see him again. And if I can fast track that, and see him now, great. But what I had to also keep thinking of was I have two sons here who would be absolutely devastated to lose their brother and their dad. So I got to suck it up.
yeah.
And that's a thought where I'm, like that conscious thought, like I'm thinking rationally, right? So I had to take the guns out of my house because I knew that not every moment was going to be that rational
Yeah.
thought.
No. Yeah. Very
If
important.
I'm half a bottle of whiskey deep,
No.
I'm not going to
Seriously.
be thinking about that. I'm going to be,
Well,
fuck this.
yeah, and
I'm done.
one of the things I've picked up on is, man, a lot of these people who um take their own life, it is in I hate to say spur of the moment because I know they've been thinking about it a lot and maybe they've even tried in the past, so it's not like spur of the moment, but there is something that kind of puts them over the edge, or maybe it is drinking that one night that they can't get past and they take their own life, and sometimes if they can just get through that one moment one
Mm.
night, it can extend it longer and maybe even indefinitely. And I think that's why getting the guns out of the house is such a good idea, because it just keeps you safe from those really dark moments where you would do it and now you don't have a gun in the house, and it just helps you survive those dark
Yeah.
times.
And there's things that you can do. There's the hotlines. 988
Yeah.
is a suicide hotline that
They
you can
just they
call
just
in.
they just talk to you, like, tell me your like, what is that experience
As
like?
far as I understand, that it's just someone on the other end that just tries to talk you through that situation, kind of assess where you're at, whether it's like that fleeting thought of I'm going to kill myself, or whether this is no. I've got the gun sitting next to me. I've got the gun to my head right now.
Yeah.
And they try to talk that person through that situation, see if they're willing to have that help, see if they're willing to go and talk with somebody. And not everybody is, because who the hell wants to have that conversation? Nobody
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
But sometimes people are at that point to where they're they legit want someone to just talk them out of that situation. They don't want to truly kill themselves. They just want the pain to stop. And so that gunshot or that noose, that's the that's the mechanism that they're using to make the pain stop.
Yeah, I guess like similar to alcohol, like that's
Yeah.
that's not the real issue. The real issue is the pain, but
Yeah.
it's the method they're using to numb it, and obviously using a gun is the permanent method of ending that pain. Um, so Hunter, he's in this coma. Let's get back to that moment. Like, walk us through it. Like, how long was he in this coma until he officially passed? Did you have to make the decision to pull him off life
Yeah.
support? What was that like?
He was being kept alive by machines for 2 weeks. And when we finally had the doctor be able to do a scan that showed that there was nothing there, I just had this overwhelming thought that he's not feeling any of this. He's not here anymore. And
Yeah.
that, and it's so hard to explain, because I just anymore I'm not a terribly religious person. I'm really not. I believe in the basics, I guess. I think there's a God, and I think that we all have a spirit inside of us, but I didn't feel that the presence of my son in that room.
Hmm.
Like, I saw his body, but I didn't feel like there was anything inside that body.
Did you like feel that maybe sooner than later, and just kind of fought that idea like in your head? Like, no, like just like that hope again. Like,
I think I always kind of went back and forth
I would
on
imagine
that,
so. Like,
because I I wanted to believe it. I like hope upon hope. I
dude,
wanted
hope's
to
kind of
see
fucked up,
anything.
dude.
I mean, and there were so many like almost like false positives there. Like towards the end there, they were bringing in, they were having him fitted for like this protective helmet.
Oh wow.
And what would that tell you? That
Oh,
your
it's like he
son's
might
going to
pull
go
through,
home
and
with you.
yeah, and he needs a
He's
helmet.
wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll take that. But
Hmm.
those false positives, man, they fuck with you more than anything.
Yeah.
You know, those 2 weeks in the hospital where he's opening his eyes and he's squeezing my hand, it kept that hope alive. And to be honest, it would have been easier to just have him die in that wreck right then and there.
Then
And that sounds like a horrible thing to say,
I don't know if it does,
but
honestly, but
I wish I could explain it better.
to
But
me,
it really
you're explaining
makes
it great.
sense. It makes
Yeah,
sense to
it
me
makes sense to me.
to just go through that. It's bam, like that's done. Than to have that 2 weeks of maybe, of praying, of sleepless nights,
Yeah.
and then to have someone say there's nothing going on, and to have to make the conscious decision to pull that plug. I'll never forget myself for that, ever.
Forgive?
Oh, never. I'll never forgive myself for that.
Oh,
I know it was absolutely the right thing to do,
yeah.
but how can you ever forgive yourself for that? To pull that plug as a parent? I don't know.
So I can't forgive myself either. So what are we gonna do? What's the game? What are you planning to do with not forgiving yourself? Are you just gonna be mad at yourself forever? Is that your game plan? I think because I don't know what mine is. That might be my game plan. I don't know.
You know what? When we do figure it out,
I'll
let's
let
write a book,
I'll
make
let
some
you
money
know.
together. All right. But here's the thing, and this was since I've started back up my career, and this will be kind of just a quick detour, and then I'll come back to what we were talking about. But the thing about trauma is, if you think you're going to go through life without experiencing trauma and have it affect you in some way, that's the same way as saying, I'm going to walk through water and not get wet.
Yeah,
But there's things that you can prepare yourself and protect yourself with, right? So you're going to go somewhere wet. You put on galoshes and a raincoat and an umbrella that'll keep you from, your core getting wet.
yeah,
And so the same thing can be said about trauma. We all know that we're going to go through these traumas in our life, so we can prepare ourselves by taking that daily inventory of where we're at in our life. How am I feeling today? These things have been on my mind. I should probably get ahead of that and talk to somebody ahead of time, and instead of dealing with something in the moment where you're going to make rash and possibly permanent deadly decisions. If you're starting to have those thoughts, talk to somebody when you're starting to have those thoughts, not when you're in full on crisis. And that's probably the best advice I can give anyone who's going through that hard time is get ahead of it.
yeah. I like. I think you're right. Like you're not gonna avoid a life of trauma,
No.
and I think the best way to manage that or fight that idea is you got to live life, man. You got to live. And that's what I love about Hunter and his obituary is dude, he was hunting and fishing and he was funny and he was a snuggler and he was all these things. And like, that's how you fight dying one day and trauma is you got to go live, man. And you got to experience things and try things and have fun. I think that's what your kid did, and I think that's all you can do because we're all gonna die. So you might as well live while you can. And it sounds simple, but I just appreciate that thought a lot more now after you lose a kid, or it's just it hits different.
Yeah, it changed everything about how I talked with my kids. The times that that we spend together. Like before we do like Christmas presents, like the whole Christmas tree thing. Here's a new pair of underwear and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
Like those superficial things, right? Anymore, if we can, we go on trips together. Like we make those memories because I couldn't tell you what I got 2 years ago for Christmas if you put
yeah. I don't know what I got for my birthday
there's
last
no
year.
way.
Yeah,
I don't remember that, but I do remember just going with my sons and going with my wife and just having fun in Disneyland,
yeah,
laughing with each other, smelling my son's stinky ass socks, in the same hotel room. Like those memories that you have, those are what you want, and so those experiences that we have as a family together, that's a big regret of mine is I wish I would have done that more with all my kids. I wish I would have made more of those memories. I wish I would have taken those pictures that everyone's kind of rolling their eyes at.
yeah,
Another friggin' picture. I don't want to, because my wife is, like very much like, we got to take pictures everywhere we go, and all of us are just like, fine,
like
whatever.
picture.
Let's take the pictures. Now I'm like, take the damn picture.
Yeah, take lots of
Take
pictures.
all the pictures you can.
Yeah, I'm gonna swap these camera batteries out.
Cool.
And then I got a couple more questions. So a lot of people, so my wife Courtney, sorry, I just want to make sure we are recording. I think we're good. So my wife Courtney, son Riggins, daughter Frankie, brother Race, nephew Ryder were all killed. Blue survives. And a lot of people mentioned that it was a miracle. Like, wow, Blue survived. What a cool thing. To me, it was just a terrible massacre, not a good day, not a miracle at all. How do you, like, you walk in a room with all three of your boys in a hospital bed, Hunter dies, the other two don't. Did you ever hear those comments, or how did you handle, or is that just a me thing, and that pissed me off and not you?
But I think that's also another one of those things that you kind of go through phases on, because I did hear that before, where someone did tell me, it's a miracle that you still have your other sons still with you, and it felt like anything but that, because all I could feel is that pain.
Mm,
And now the way I look at it is, yeah, I lost one of my sons, but I am so grateful that I still have my other two here. Yeah, so I think in a way, maybe miracle's not the right word. I think it's a matter of perspective,
yeah.
you know, and losing all these people in your life all at once, maybe there'll be those days where you do have to look at that as a miracle, just to get you through that moment,
Yeah.
where you look at Blue and say, I am devastated that I lost these other people in my life, but man, I'm so glad that you're here. That's going to get you through those tough days.
Yeah. I mean, you said it before, but the same thing with me. Like, if Blue didn't survive, then I would have. Man, like, it's crazy how close. Like, that would have been the story. Like, if Blue would have been killed as well, I would have killed myself, and that would have been the story. Like, that's how close it was. And I don't know if people realize that, but luckily Blue survived, and I'm still here. What do you do with? Well, sorry, I have so many questions in my head. How are your sons doing? Like, what are they up to today? What has it been like for them being in the car, them surviving? How often do they talk about it, mention it, stuff like that?
So all three of my sons were so vastly different, and they all kind of have, certain things that they get from me or their mom or whoever. So they handle things like this, like trauma, differently. My oldest, he's vocal about certain things. Like, I can sit down with him, just this past week, we had a night where we, had a couple of whiskeys and just talked, which is really, really good.
Whiskey will help you do that.
Whiskey helps, like the old saying goes, and it does.
Yeah.
But like, we had a talk, and I mentioned a couple things to him that I just kind of thought of. Like, we kind of mentioned, like, some of the trauma and how you reach, just overall happiness from day to day, as close as you can get, right? But then my middle boy, for a long time, he wouldn't talk about it. You could not get him to talk about it. He'll talk football. He'll talk your ear off about football. What kid's a walking ESPN app, talk about that till forever. But you try to talk to him about something real, like how he's feeling about his brother, you're never going to get there. He's going to put those walls up. You're never going to get there with him, until recently, finally, he's finally decided on his own to start going to counseling again. And he hasn't told me about specific things, but I remember when he said that, I was like, oh, thank God. This is such a good thing. And I wanted to, kind of rein that in and say, oh, that's great, son. Let me know how I can help, or if you ever need to talk about that. But at least he's talking to somebody,
Yeah.
you know. But so when I'm talking with my oldest, Austin, uh, the other night, we talked about how you deal with just overall loss. And this actually came from a counselor that I saw, a trauma counselor, and he kind of put an interesting twist on this for me. But he said, imagine you're here before life, or the premortal existence, or whatever it is, just up on a cloud somewhere before, and it's you and God, and you're having a conversation, and he presents you with this thought of, I can give you all these things. I can, bestow upon you all this knowledge and happiness and memories and these great things. You're going to do all these awesome things in your life, right? Like, what do you say? Like, hell yeah, of course you'd say that. All right, well, everything comes with a cost. All that's going to cost you is the loss of your son. the loss of your child. What do you say now? I'd rather die ignorant,
Yeah.
because who wouldn't, right? And then he throws the twist at me. He says, now imagine that your son is standing right next to you and says, in order for you to reach that point in your life, I am willing to lay down my life. And I lost my shit. When he said that, I just broke down in tears because I could honestly see my son saying that to me
Mm.
because he was that selfless.
Yeah.
So for him to nobody knows if any of that stuff is true. Nobody knows what happens after this life because
Right.
we're all still alive. Nobody knows what's going to happen until you're dead.
Yeah.
But it's a nice thought.
Well, I think if that's how it made you feel, I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing too. Like,
Yeah.
I
If
think
it works, it's good medicine, right?
yeah.
Yeah. But I mentioned this to my oldest, and he just broke down in tears. It's almost like he needed to hear that.
Yeah.
And so again, if it works, it's good medicine. If that's a nice thought for you, hell, hold on to it. True or false, who cares? If it works, hang on to it.
How would you explain your grief to someone? And maybe talk about it over the scope of 4 years, like how it's evolved. But like, how would you explain the feeling of losing your son from 2021 to this present day?
Overall, it's day by day. Like we were talking about before, like the stages of grief and stuff like that. Oh Lord, that kind of talk drives me crazy. I mean, you might as well say everything happens for a reason and just let me punch you in the face, because God knows we all heard that,
Yeah.
But the closest thing that I can really relate it to is you imagine that your grief is like this void, this hole in your life, right? And you're standing right there on the brink of it. It's all you can see. And it's just black and infinite and just it's all encompassing. It just consumes you, right? But then as you add on memories and time, counseling and these different steps you can take in your life, you start to step back from that hole. And then it starts to create these layers on the outside. And then, you look at it one day and the hole maybe doesn't seem as menacing.
Mm.
It's still the same hole.
It's the same.
Hole hasn't changed
It's
at
the
all.
same size
It's never gotten smaller.
too. It's
It's
just
still what it
the
is.
work you put around it.
But you've built all these different layers. And so in comparison, maybe it doesn't seem that menacing. At least that's how it was for me, by pushing myself, by trying to create all these things, by testing myself. I mean, I just barely went to a class for investigations called Unexplained Child Deaths. Tell me how much freaking fun that week was.
Yeah.
For
So
anyone who's lost a child, freaking sucked.
my anger would just be on max all the time. I think like I'd be snapping at people. I probably like it would not be good for me.
It was the hardest class I've ever gone through, but it
Yeah.
was necessary because I feel like I have to constantly test myself and see where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for all of us to not necessarily put ourselves in purposely difficult positions where we know it's going to suck, all the time. But that's what works for me. I have to constantly push myself. I got back in this job because I feel like I have more to give. And the things that I'm involved in right now in investigations, they make a difference to those kids. Like, I'm not going to get into exactly what I investigate, but I'm sure you can figure
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah.
I help kids.
That's cool.
I try to put people away who hurt children. And that makes me feel better. That gets me through my day because I see some horrible shit. But if I can put cuffs on somebody at the end of the day, it's worth it.
Yeah. What's your communication like with Hunter? What are some ways? Is it there's like an animal that represents him? Do you talk to him daily? Do you what anything like that?
So I got this tattoo after, God, this couple of years. maybe a year after. But I feel like all of my children kind of represent different animals. So he loved geometric drawing, right?
Wow, yeah.
And
My nephew Ram got something very similar,
yeah,
like this style of tattoo with the animals, man. It's so
and
cool.
so this this panda is Hunter. And pandas are they're kind of clumsy, but you know
But
what?
they're snuggly. They
You
snuggle.
never see an angry one, right?
That's very
And,
true.
and for the most part, this is him. Okay, that boy, he could certainly have a temper. Like him and his brother, like they played all the time, but boy, did they fight. But he was just a happy kid. Like you see a panda, you're like, oh, a panda. You know, and like this is my middle son. The bear, the protector, the big, strong, the burly. Where he's not going to take shit from anybody.
Yeah.
And then I've got my oldest.
The lion.
It's a lion. He's the one who brings the pride together. You know, and he's not going to let anything happen to his brothers. And that's how I see my children. I now that they're older, and when your kids get older, that relationship changes. Like they'll always be your children, and they're always going to do dumb shit that you got to bail them out of, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now that they're adults, I take my kids into any situation, and
Yeah.
I know that if I'm going left, they're going right. They got my back,
Yeah.
and it's such a good feeling to have that kind of bond with your kids, to where that they're right there with you. They're in that foxhole,
Yeah.
and it's something that I feel very lucky to have with my children. I believe that there's nothing thicker than blood. That family is above all.
Is that one of the I don't know. I've never know how to put this, but one of the uh, benefits of losing a child, you would say, is just that the perspective shift of how your relationships with your other sons are connected now.
It's one of the results.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say
Okay.
benefits.
Sorry. Yeah, I
It's
didn't know.
something that no,
It's a hard. I don't know what I'm
totally get
saying
it.
because it's not good, and I wouldn't. Yeah,
But
but
there are a lot of things that can change in your life if you let them.
yeah, that's kind of my question. Is like, what else has kind of changed for you for the better because of losing Hunter?
It it changed how I look at my life, how I look at my family, how I look at every day. It
Yeah,
it, it changed everything about me.
me too. Like before the car accident, like I wanted my kids to go to college and be really good at basketball and be a starter on their high school team or like stuff like that. And now it's like you don't have to play basketball or you don't have to go to college ever. Like I don't care. Like and I don't yeah, like I hate to say it, but I kind of viewed my success as a parent on how successful my kids were
Yeah,
at doing things.
I think
And
we all do
I
that.
think so. And now I'm like, what a bizarre thing to want or think about. And now man, I'm just so appreciative to talk to my kid and
Mhm.
have him try anything that he's interested in and just supporting him in that. And man, like failure, like I love to put Blue in situations where he's going to fall down and fail. And instead of, man, the other thing is I used to do so much for my kids. I used to do almost everything for them. And now it's less is more in a way. Like
Mhm.
you need to let your kids pack their lunch and get dressed for school and do their own homework. And if they didn't do the homework, they're going to get bad. Like, I don't know. It's just changed me in a lot of ways with how I parent and type of friend I am and partner I am.
And I think that's just growth. And a lot of it comes from trial and error, right?
Yeah.
Because the kids don't come with an instruction manual. You got to figure it out as you go. And Lord
And they're
knows
all
we make a
different.
lot of
I
mistakes.
mean,
Yeah,
all your kids are
every
so
kid. Yeah,
different. That makes it hard too. Is I
yeah,
can't parent you like it's
yeah.
like coaching a basketball team. Like
Hmm.
I can yell at this kid, but I can't
Yep.
yell at this kid.
Yeah, my kids were the exact same. My middle boy, I coached him in football. I'd have him by the face mask, just reading him the riot act, on something. I
Yeah.
couldn't do that with Hunter.
Yep.
It's so how he started work was he actually got caught vaping at school. So I get a call from the principal. I go down there, and before these Hunter's giving his principal the whole, my dad's gonna kill me. And I didn't say a word till we get in the car, and then I let him have it. I was just
You think you're cool for vaping in the
oh
middle of the
I went off on him. And actually, so we were actually just talking about this the other day, and we got a little bit of a chuckle about this. This is me and my oldest Austin. That day I took him back to the house, and I sat out a lawn chair on the driveway, got myself a beer, and I got myself a pair of scissors. And I took Hunter out and said, my lawn needs cutting. And I
No.
handed him
No.
the scissors. And he was out there just snip, snip. My
That's
wife comes home,
brutal.
and she's just trying not to laugh her ass off because I'm just sitting there having a beer, enjoying my evening while my son's out there just missed a spot, snip,
That
snip.
is
Just,
so good, man.
and we had quite a laugh about it. But and that was close to the end of the school year, and so he was done with school at that time. I made him go online and do all of his stuff to finish out his freshman year at that time, and he got a job with my first wife's boyfriend at her restaurant, Angelica's, or his restaurant, sorry. And he was working, and I told him, I said, I'll allow this to happen under one condition: you do not pay him. He worked for free for almost that entire summer till he finally said, you know what, he's been doing a great job, and they finally started paying him. But it taught him, like, he grew
Yeah.
just leaps and bounds that summer, where I think that was probably one of the best things that could have happened, is for him to get his ass ripped a little bit, get in a little bit of
Yeah.
trouble. And so then, he's going to work every day. And at first, it's like, oh, this sucks. Can't believe I have to do this. But then he starts going, I'm good at this. I can work hard. I can appreciate a hard day's work and what comes from that. Not just on a paycheck, but feeling that sense of accomplishment. And that taught him that. And I don't think he would have learned that as quickly if
Yeah.
it wasn't for that situation being forced onto him.
Hmm.
So it just kind of an interesting thing that happened.
Cutting grass with scissors. Man,
Yeah, all you parents, listening,
That's
it's not a bad thing. Yeah,
if you're gonna smoke grass, you gotta cut the grass
that's
with
right.
scissors.
That's right. Yeah.
What advice or what would you say to someone who is about to lose a kid, maybe cancer, or they have to make a tough decision like you did to take them off life support, or just lost a kid? What are you saying to them?
Man, I guess the first thing is understand that unless someone has been in your situation, don't take advice from anybody who hasn't been in your shoes.
Yeah.
you know, because you're going to hear a lot of dumb shit from people. The whole everything happens for a reason. It's just going to piss you off. The best thing that I heard after I lost my son, it was a guy who I didn't even really know. It's like a friend of a friend comes up and says, heard you lost your son. It really sucks, man. I'm sorry. That was the best thing I'd heard.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you.
Those are the comments
Thank
I
you for
love.
not making up some
Yeah.
bullshit about,
Like, they're gone. This is awful.
it's
It
always
hurts.
darkest before the dawn. Oh my
dude,
God.
fuck off.
Yeah.
man.
Seriously.
Thanks.
Yeah. I wish I could have punched everybody who said that to me.
But
And
like,
there was a lot.
they're just, what it is they're trying to help.
Yeah.
They are hurting, and they're so uncomfortable watching you hurt that they just
Exactly.
they need they
They have
want
to say something.
Yeah, they want to be comfortable, and so they're gonna say something that makes sense for them, like you'll see him again or whatever, and then they can sleep at night, and because it's just that bad, dude. And I liked it too. Like, just tell me it hurts and it's awful, because that's the reality of it.
Yeah,
If you tell me that, I'll try to keep going. But when people act like it's not that bad, oh, then that just rubs me the wrong way.
absolutely, as it should.
Yeah.
But the best advice I can give is let yourself feel how you feel. Don't
Mm.
let somebody else tell you how you feel or feel obligated to feel a certain way. You know, if you feel shitty that day, let yourself feel shitty. Let yourself fall down, but go through that and then get up.
You still have bad days like that?
Hell yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I do.
Thanks for the honesty, because I sure do. Like,
And I'll tell you the dirty secret that's not a secret is you are always going to have those thoughts
yeah.
because that's all trauma is. Trauma is just a memory that has difficulty and hurt attached to it. Once you detach the pain from a memory, then it's just a memory.
Yeah.
But I haven't figured out how to do that. And I don't know that there is a way.
Yeah. Well said. I'm just repeating it in my mind right now. And I don't know how to do that either. But I think you're right. Like,
But try to focus on the good. Try to find that reason to get out of bed. Try to find that reason. If you're going through these thoughts of self-harm, try to find a reason that is going to get you through that.
one of the parts I've noticed about grief is like that feeling of wanting to die is, it's awful, but it's normal. It's natural. Like, it just comes with the territory. You don't need to try to feel that way. Like, that's just the feeling. I think trying to be happy again feels very unnatural and wrong, especially at first. What's your happiness journey been like? Like, allowing yourself to be happy again, allowing yourself to laugh at a joke and to like go to a movie again. Like, what's that been like for you?
You know, it's situational. There's certain things that I have a hard time doing. You know, that I have a hard time uh, going to movies. You know, because I will always find something in any movie I watch that's going to remind me of my son. You know,
Mm.
going to remind me of how much I miss him.
Plus, like, every movie has a car crash scene.
Oh,
I swear.
car crash or
Like,
I mean, hell, going to a horror movie. Oh, Hunter used to
oh
love
man, yeah,
horror movies. You
yeah.
know, we went to go see the second Avatar, and it's just
Oh,
like I found myself just crying my eyes out in Avatar. You know, because he had also lost his son, and so me and my wife were just losing our shit in the theater. But there's really no right answer for it. You just put yourself in situations that you feel like are going to help you grow. And if you get through it, then you grew. If you don't get through it, that's okay. Be patient with yourself. Allow yourself to feel the feelings. I know I said that before, but it's the best advice I can give anyone is be patient with yourself.
yeah,
Because who cares if you're not progressing as well? Like, who cares if our paths are synced?
right,
You know, if I'm progressing quicker than you, if you're progressing quicker than me, who cares?
right.
My 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 happiness isn't based on things that you do and vice versa. You know, your happiness is going to be based on your own path, your own lines. So just allow yourself to live that. Allow yourself to feel all these feelings and like I said before, it's okay to have those days where you are just nope, not
Yeah,
today. Or nope, I'm just going to lay in bed a little bit longer today. I'm going to have a couple drinks and get through this. Okay. But eventually, you're going to have to put that bottle down. You're going to have to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and move forward in your life because it's the only way that you're going to feel any better. So one thing I can promise you is laying in bed it's never going to make you feel better long term. That's a temporary thing.
Right.
You know, if you keep having these days, weeks, and months, eventually it's going to get worse. It's never better.
Right.
So,
No, I agree. Allowing yourself to feel it. And when like you go through these different waves of grief, whether it's the anger or the bargaining or the acceptance or the depression, whatever it is, I I think grief's like anything else, man. Like it takes practice and effort. Like you have to practice it and do reps and get used to these feelings. And now, like 4 years later, like the pain still hits the same, but I'm almost like I don't know. Can you like feel yourself leaving one emotion and kind of entering the anger? Like I can like feel myself like, ooh,
oh yeah,
I'm the
it's like when
angry.
water starts to
Yeah.
boil.
Yes,
Yeah,
and then
you feel it.
I can kind of feel myself moving out of it sometimes, and then I feel I truly believe I can start to feel when I can notice when I haven't talked about it in a while,
Hmm.
like the anxiety and the pressure in my just like, and I know now like I need to do a podcast or I need to talk, I need to do something,
Yeah,
and I think that's one of the things of allowing yourself to feel it is you are practicing with these emotions and feelings and yeah, you just kind of get better at moving in and out of them and feeling them. And you have more control.
hmm,
I feel like I'm more in control, even though I'm out of control by slipping into these different emotions, but I'm somewhat in control with how I'm moving through them. I don't know if that
yeah.
even makes sense.
And I think that's different, really, for everybody. Like some people, you know, like there are times when I can feel like, oh, I'm about to say some things, you know,
Yeah.
and there are times when it's just like, damn, where it happens out of nowhere, where
Yeah.
I get pissed off because my socks weren't arranged right in my drawer. Like just dumb shit like that, you know. Am I
Yeah.
really mad at the socks?
No.
No, you know. But that was just like that spark,
That's
you
so
know. And it
funny.
happens. The bottom line is just like chowdering. There is no instruction manual for getting through grief. You
Yeah.
know, all we can do is our best, and it ain't going to be every day.
Um, I do want to talk about your dad briefly. You lost your dad how long ago?
I lost my dad last year, so Christmas Eve, I'm in Hunter's hospital room, and it's probably, I don't know, I don't even know what time it was. I know it was night, and I know I was, you know, I had like one eye open, just sleep deprived. I'm just exhausted. And my sister comes in the hospital room. I'm looking at her like, "What the hell are you doing here? It's Christmas. Are you here? It's Christmas Eve, right?"
Yeah.
Like I knew that all of them were, you know, at my parents' house, like trying to do Christmas like for the so you still have like young grandkids, you know, got to keep some sense of normalcy, right?
Yeah.
And my sister walks in the room, and after I realized that she was actually there, like, "What's up?" I said, "Dad just had a seizure." My dad's never had a seizure in his life, and he was at the same hospital. He was brought to the same
As Hunter.
hospital eventually, not that night,
I'll go there.
but no, I take that back. He was brought to the same hospital because of their neurological unit there, and he was
Well,
just,
you having a tough time remembering with all the trauma and
yeah,
grief going on?
yeah,
Why can't you remember exactly?
yeah. Goes back to that trauma brain stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so he was just a couple of floors down, and so I go down there, and I'm like, "What the hell happened?" You know, he just had a seizure. All of a sudden, he was just sitting in a chair, and all of a sudden, he just looks at my brother, and it was like that. Oh shit, something's wrong. And then he just goes on the ground and goes into full seizures. And come to find out, uh, my dad was later diagnosed with what's called glioblastoma, which is brain cancer.
Mm.
It's one of the most aggressive cancers that you can have. And he had a couple surgeries, you know, but they couldn't get all of it just because of where it was in his brain. And Like there was a while there where he was just kind of, it wasn't like growing a lot, like, but it wasn't in remission either, you know. So he kind of had that time where he was just home. He went from having to have a walking stick to wheelchair to completely bedridden, and we lost him June 17th of last year. And so, yeah, it was. What was really weird about that though is when my dad died. I mean, of course, I was sad. It's my dad. I mean, I miss my dad. I give anything on this earth to have a hug from him. But it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same as losing my son. I like I look around and my mom is, she's devastated. My brother and my sisters, they're having a hard time. But it wasn't like that quick, accident that just all of a sudden happened. We had him over like 3 years.
Yeah.
Where he just fought that. But there towards the end, it wasn't even like he was really dad anymore. And what was weird is when I used to hold his hand, and it was just so frail. Like before, when I'd shake his hand or give him a hug, I could feel it. I could feel the strength in him. And towards the end, I was holding him up. And that's a weird shift. That's a weird shift to have, where you are the one who is that pillar of strength for your father, for your parent, or whoever. And I wasn't ready for it. Mm. I wasn't ready to have that happen. But after he was diagnosed with that cancer, going back, I'm all over the place, sorry. After he was diagnosed with that cancer, I just remember sitting in my car and just screaming. Like, it wasn't enough to lose my son, like I've got to lose my dad too. What else? What else is there? What else are you going to throw at me? Just having this screaming match, just full of anger and rage, and I must have looked like I was having like a psychological thing in the car, because I'm just sitting in the car in just the parking lot, just losing my shit. And I don't know. It's just weird. It's just weird how we all process. Like some people turn to prayer, some people turn to, just, crying and emotional and stuff like that. And I turned straight to rage because, again, I needed that outlet. I needed something. Like I wanted to hit something. I wanted to hit someone. I wanted to just make it stop. But man, I don't know. That wasn't it, because I didn't feel any better after I screamed.
What are some healthy outlets for anger?
Honestly, talking about it, which is ironic because until recently, I was not good at talking about it. I was never a fan of therapy and stuff like that. You couldn't pay me enough to talk to, pay to
pussy
talk to
going to therapy.
Yeah. And it's so good that we finally moved past that stereotype as a society. And especially like in my job, my God, if
you guys need it.
Talk about that kind of stuff. I mean, I remember going on my first dead child. It was a SIDS case. And she was about the same age as Hunter. And it fucked me up for weeks. Yeah. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I could still take you to the house. I could still see her face. And it happened 17 years ago. And I could still draw you a picture of that child's face. So the biggest thing that we can all do is let that out. Talk to somebody. Things aren't, where you're looked at as that pussy, that you're not looked at as being weak for having that. That's what the smart people do. The smart people, let that out as it comes. People who are, going to just shove that away in this little box and put that in a closet and, put that box in another box or whatever it is, eventually that's going to come out.
Yeah, and it's going to be way
And it's going to
worse.
come out violent and in a very, very bad way. You can't put away all that trauma and expect that it's just going to just disappear, because it's not. It's waiting.
I love that answer because that's my answer too. Is I cry about it and I talk about it, and from my experience, I have to talk about it a lot. Like I need a 1 week just to be able. I need to talk about it, and it's been almost 4 years now, and so I think that's important too. Is it's not just a one time talk about it. I think at least for me or some people, like you need to keep talking about it, and if I ever get the urge where like I don't need to talk about it anymore, then maybe I'll get there. But I definitely haven't. I have too much anger to not talk about it. So I really love your answer. Anything else you want to say or talk about before we end our podcast with top 3 favorite movies of all time?
You know, I was kind of apprehensive about wanting to do this, because I didn't know the kind of questions that were going to come up, and I didn't know how I was going to react to that. But I'm glad I'm here. I think you're right. I think you just being able to sit here and talk with someone knows who knows that same
Yeah.
kind of trauma. I think that's an important thing, being able to sit with someone who's not just feeling empathy, but someone who can legitimately feel
Yeah.
sympathy, because they know
Yeah, and
what I'm going through.
someone who understands, like, listen, I can't fix anything for you. Like, there's nothing I can do to fix that. And there's nothing you can do to fix my stuff. But just being able to say that and talk about that, oh man, it does so much for me. It helps me carry the pain way better. So yeah, I'm glad you showed up, and thanks for talking about Hunter.
Thanks for having me. This has been good for me too. I think that you're absolutely right. You have to talk about it, because it keeps that memory alive.
Yeah.
You know, for us, we've got to find that outlet. And if we can find someone to stand shoulder to shoulder with, and kind of weather that storm,
Yeah.
sometimes it's important. It's necessary.
Well, I wasn't joking. We end every episode with top 3 favorite movies of all time. We try to end. We try to end on a positive note. So, what do you got for us? And we start with number 3. So 3, 2, 1 in order. And then the other rule we have, like, we take this very seriously, as you can tell. But the other rule we have is, so like if you pick Harry Potter, you would get every Harry Potter movie with that one pick. So that might be good to know. But take it away. Top 3 favorite movies.
Oh, top 3. I think 3 is, honestly, I'd have to say Braveheart.
Freedom.
I loved Braveheart.
Who doesn't?
That was such a great movie, and it's just timeless.
It is, man.
You know,
You can any scene you can just hop in and start watching.
And I still get chills, where they're on the field at the end, and
They'll never take
chucks the sword.
our freedom.
God, it just gives me chills to this day.
Yeah.
Except now, that I'm, more emotionally, and like I'll be at the end. Damn right,
Try.
I'm losing these.
Thanks, William Wallace. That was
just
great.
over there, just sobbing. Maybe it's a Scottish blood. I don't know. I connect with it. So number 2, let's see. I'm going to have to go with the first Godfather.
Ooh. Man, Godfather is tricky because usually when they make sequels, they definitely get worse. But Godfather 2 is good as
2
well.
was really good. 3 sucked.
Yeah, they get, what are you going to do?
Just didn't like it.
1 and 2 are, and you get all 3 movies. So that's a good pick.
Yeah, it's
Godfather's
one is by far it just had like so many actors that were just right there at the beginning of their career.
Yeah.
You got Al Pacino, you've got oh my gosh, James Caan,
I don't know their names.
his brother. Anyway, just all these people, Marlon Brando, that are just in their prime, man. They're just so good. Such a good movie.
Very good movie.
And honestly, my favorite movie is The Other Guys.
Oh, the comedy. Wow, I like it.
It's just something
It's because
about
you're a cop.
it really is.
I think that
100%. Just because you look at some of these things that happen in that, and it's just you can relate to it.
no,
You
for
know,
sure.
I look at that, it will always just make me laugh so hard. You know, like when he stomps on the gas and yells America. I do that in my car. You know,
America.
getting ready to go through like a yellow light, I'll yell America. Just
Did you yell America? He's like asking about.
first time I've ever pushed the pedal to the ground is exhilarating.
I think that's the movie where like is that the one where like homeless people steal his Prius?
Yeah,
And like we're
in the book.
gonna go put some P's and some V's. Like that part has me
we
rolling.
I'll bet we quote that movie so many times throughout the day. You know, you got a bunch of college like that. That's like our national anthem, man. We
That's hilarious.
love that movie.
Well, so Braveheart, Godfather, and then the other guys. That's
Yeah.
quite the movie list, man. Good job. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for talking about Hunter. And remember, life's 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it.